So you came here to make the easiest handmade fabric bag possible. Let's get started. The materials for this is listed in the description of this video, and I'm also going to insert a picture of it somewhere over here. So let's get started. And thank you for being here. My name is Rachel, and this is Unbiased LLC. Okay, so I have my fusible interfacing right here, and I have two pieces. I folded them in half and then folded them again in half, but I'm going to show you that with the fabric, okay? So make sure you have two pieces of interfacing measuring 22 by 22 squared. So this is my main fabric, and this is my lining fabric. So let me show you how to fold it. You're going to have one main fabric and one lining fabric measuring 22 by 22. Mine is a little off, but it's okay. It's going to all work out in the end. So just if you have a square, you're going to fold it in half and then make sure that it's in half. And if you're not comfortable folding both pieces of your fabrics together, please fold them separately and cut them out. I'll just do this to kind of save time. So you fold it in half, just like this, and then you're going to fold it again in half onto itself. Okay? Just like this. So when you're done, you should have the folded edge on the right side, and you should have this other folded edge, however, is open, right? So my right side is closed and it's folded all the way. There's no opening. So this is my right side. This is the bottom, but at the top to the left, you should have you should see all the layers of your fabric just like this, okay? Just like this. And if you only had one piece of your fabric folded at a time, you're only going to have 4 layers right here. But since I have both pieces of my fabric folded, I'm going to have 8 layers up here, okay? So one time again, this is the folded edge. This edge does not open, and this is the right side of my fabric. This is the bottom portion of my fabric, and it's open in two, okay? In two spots, right? And the left side of my fabric at the top, all of these layers are open. So let's get started. What I have done is I have taken my fusible interfacing and I folded it exactly how I folded this fabric. And this is the fold of my interfacing. So this on the right side is closed and at the bottom is open. What you're going to do is take your tape measure, and from the fold at the bottom on the right, you're going to measure up 10 inches. So it will be 10 inches from the fold on the right. And you're going to make a mark, and you're going to take your tape measure while holding the 10 inches. Hold the 10 inches, and you're going to like take your tape measure and mark those 10 inches all the way across your fabric. So I never let go of this, okay, to the top. All right. And I'm just going to come back and do a couple of more just so I can get my measurements here. And then I know that it's going to taper off at the end of my fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just eyeball a circle or a half circle. Okay, so just connect the dots is what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be, you want it to be perfect circled, but if you don't get it exactly, it's going to be okay. Okay, I promise. And so I'm just going to taper this all the way down to the bottom. All right, so let me show you what you should have. So what I did was I took my tape measure. This would have been my right bottom corner. I put my tape measure there. I measured 10 inches up, which is 25.4 centimeters up. I draw a line, and then I took my tape measure while holding it in at the bottom for my 10 inches and just drew marks all the way around for 10 inches. And then I connected the dots. Okay. So if yours look like this, perfect. So my interfacing is 1 inch smaller than my main fabric. I'm going to be cutting my interfacing 1 inch smaller than my main fabric. Okay. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut all the way around. Now you can take your rotary cutter. I may have to use my rotary cutter. You can take your rotary cutter and just follow the mark. If you're not comfortable with the rotary cutter, you can definitely cut this out with scissors. And so once you cut this out, you're going to open it up and you should have the perfect circle or somewhat of a perfect circle. Okay. Don't beat yourself up if it doesn't come out perfect. I'm going to save this interfacing because you can use that for something small. Okay. Some small project. So now I'm going to open up one of them because I'm going to use my interfacing as a pattern for my main fabric. So I'm going to show you what the circle should look like. Just like this. And so I'm going to use this for my lining fabric, and I'm going to fuse it onto the fabric. So if you're using fusible interfacing, one side is smooth and the other side have bumps on it. You can actually feel the difference. You're going to use the side with the bumps on it and place it on the wrong side of your lining fabric and iron it down. Okay, that's what fusible interfacing is. And that's only if you are a beginner and you don't know the difference. Okay, so let's take our other piece of fusible interfacing and we're going to take our fabrics. So if you folded both pieces of your fabrics, the main and the lining together, you can cut all of this out at one time. If you chose to only fold one piece of your fabric, you're going to cut them out separately. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to take the fold of my interfacing that does not come apart and line it up with the fold of my fabric that does not come apart. So this is on my right side. This is on my right side. I'm going to line this up exactly in the right bottom corner of my fabric. And then I'm just going to pin it or clip it. You can pin or clip just to make sure it does not move. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut 1 inch away from your interfacing onto your fabric. Now, you can take a ruler and measure your 1 inch away from the fabric all the way around. I'm going to do that so you can see it. So I'm going to use a piece of chalk, and I'm going to put 11 inches in this bottom right corner. So if you can see, I am exactly 1 inch away from my interfacing. All right. So I'm going to mark my 11 inches. I'm going to hold in the corner and mark 11 inches. Hold it in the corner and bring it back down to the bottom and mark my 11 inches. Okay. And if you need to, you can bring it in the middle between these 2 points and mark another 11 inches. You can bring it in the middle between these 2 points and mark another 11 inches. And then you're going to take and draw your imaginary half circle connecting the dots. All right. And so what I'm going to do is take my scissors this time and cut my half circle. Make sure that you have all layers of your fabric when you get ready to cut. And so after cutting this, you should have your circle. And then what you're going to do is take all of this to your ironing board and fuse on your fusible interfacing. So now I can open up my fusible interfacing. I can open up my fabric. So I have my lining fabric. I'm going to pull that out and set it to the side. And then I have my main fabric. And being that my fabric is pretty on both sides, I just need to determine which side of the fabric I want. And I believe I want this side. So I'm just going to flip my fabric. So now this is the wrong side of my fabric. I'm going to take my interfacing with the bumps facing down. So this side has the bumpy side and this side is the smooth side. I'm going to face it down and try to center it and line it up. And looking at this just to make sure that I have about 1 inch, 1 inch away from the interfacing is where I want to be. Now you can butt yours up all the way against it. I'm just choosing to keep the interfacing out of my seam allowance for the bag. Oh, I think it's turned the wrong side. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to take this to my iron and I'm going to iron it down, and I'll also do the lining fabric the same exact way, and I'll be back. So now that I have all of my lining and my main fabric pieces fused with the interfacing, I'm going to show you how to do your handles. I've already done 3 of my handles, but I'm going to show you how to do it just in case you don't know how to do it. So again, I'm going to fuse my handle. This is the wrong side of my fabric. This is the bumpy side of the fusible interfacing, and I'm just going to try to center it a little bit, and then I'm going to fuse this down. And then once you fuse it down, you're just going to fold this in half onto itself. And then you're going to fold it again in half onto itself. So if this is your first time making handles, you can do it like this. And the interfacing for the handles is optional. You don't have to put them. Also, I wanted to show you which interfacing I was using for this project. And I don't recommend this interfacing if you're using it to sew any type of garments, but this interfacing came from the Dollar Tree for $1.25. And then I also found some for 25 cents because they were going clearancing this out to bring in the new. So you can find this fusible interfacing at the Dollar Tree. That's what I'm using for this project. So now I've already fused my interfacing. I'm going to fold this in half, wrong sides together, iron it down so that I can find a crease or the center of my fabric. The dimensions for this is in the description. 4 inches across and 13.33 over 4, which is 0.75, is the width of all of your handles. So I have a crease. Open it up. And you're going to take one end and fold it to the center of the crease. Iron it down. And then you're going to take the other end of your handle, fold it into the crease, and iron it down. And then you're going to take both of your ends and fold them onto each other again. This is the last time. And you're just going to iron this down. And this is what you're going to use to create your handles for your bag. And so you should have 2 of each color. 2 handles for the lining and 2 handles for the main fabric. And what you're going to do when we get to the sewing machine is you're going to have one main fabric with the lining fabric, and then you're going to just create the other one. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew them together to make one long continuous strip. So we will be heading to the sewing machine shortly, but I do want to show you what to do with both pieces of your circle. So this is my lining fabric of my circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this lining fabric and fold it in half onto itself. So it will be pretty side to pretty side. You should see your interfacing faced up in this section. Okay. I am going to take my fabric and I'm just going to iron in my crease. Iron in my crease. And you're going to do this for both pieces, the main fabric and the lining fabric. Fold it in half, pretty side to pretty side onto itself. And I'm just going to show you this one, but when I come back, both of my pieces will be ironed. Okay, so my lining is folded in half and my main fabric is folded in half. And I'm going to show you on the lining fabric so that you can see it, that you're going to sew all the way around on your circle. However, on both pieces, the lining pieces and the fabric pieces, you're just going to make you an opening. So you're going to sew all of this, and then you're going to sew all of this. So you're just going to leave an opening in the center, okay? And I'm just going to mark my opening for my main fabric, just so I won't forget when I get to the sewing machine. And I'm just going to sew all the way on both sides and I'll show you that when we get to the sewing machine. We are also going to sew our handles while we're at the sewing machine. You're first going to connect your pieces, okay? Make one long continuous piece, and then we're just going to sew up and come back down on both ends, and you will see that when I get to the sewing machine. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine. I am going to take one of my lining pieces of handle, and I'm going to connect it with the other main piece of handle. The thing that I want you to notice or make sure of is when you're connecting your handles, that you turn them the same way. So you see how this opens and this one opens? That means that they are correct. But if you sew this that's open to this that is not open, it's not necessarily going to be wrong. However, you want to be able to put this opening part that you're going to sew down into the bag, so that way nobody can see that it's not folded perfectly. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. So I'm just going to line up both of these handles, and I'm going to sew them down. And I'm just adjusting my handle at the bottom because it was a little bit bigger. I didn't fold it correctly at the bottom. So I'm just making sure that they both open on this side. And what I'm going to do is take it to the sewing machine and just sew a straight line across all of this so that it can connect together. And I did a couple of back stitches. So this what am I trying to say? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using 2.5 stitch length. My tension on my Singer heavy duty sewing machine is set between the 3 and the 4. My needle is in the middle position because I'm using that 1/4 inch presser foot, and I'm just using a regular straight stitch. So what I was going to say is you can cut this with your regular scissors. I'm going to be using my pinking shears so that the fabric doesn't fray over time. And this is what you should have once you connect these two pieces together. One long continuous piece. Okay? So I'm going to sit that to the side, and I'm going to do the same exact thing with the other handles. I'm just going to connect them, making sure that both of my openings are on the same side. Backstitch a couple of times because they are handles, and people will be using them a lot. And so I'm opening that up, and so now I'm just going to sew down all the way down until I finish. So I'm going to take this end that is open still, and I'm going to sew across and then go all the way down and come all the way back up. You still want to backstitch. Leave your needle down, pivot. All right, so I sewed both of my handles together, and then for fun, because I did have a mistake with my other handle, let me show it to you. Uh, let me show you right here. So you see how my machine, I got off track. So what I did was I just put some quilting lines through my handles just to make it look like it was intentional. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. So now we're going to do our circle for our fabric, and I am going to pin, or I'm sorry, clip, so that my circle won't move while I'm sewing. And I'm just going to sew from this edge all the way to my opening part, and then skip over that, and then start back sewing and come all the way around to the other side. And just in case you are new and you use these clips like the Wonder Clips, if you see the flat side of this clip, it goes down. It goes down on the table, okay? And the bumpy side or the raised side goes on top of the fabric. So when you're sewing, this is on the flat side, and so therefore you can move it. If it was on the opposite side, it will make this bumpy as you're sewing, okay? So you want to sew with the smooth side, flat side down on your clips. Just thought I would throw that in there just in case you are new and you didn't know that. So I am going to be sewing my circle at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And so I'm just going to sew it and I'll be back. And the key to sewing the circle is try to stay on your seam allowance line the whole time, okay, all the way through. Uh-oh. See, I wasn't even looking. And so when I get to my first opening, I'm going to get close, and then I'm going to do a couple of back stitches, because when you reach into your fabric, it these are your stretch points. So now I'm just going to lift my presser foot up and slide my fabric down to the next spot where I left my opening. I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm just going to continue to sew. And when I come back, I'll be done with this piece and my lining piece, and then we will move to the next part. Okay, so after you have sewn and then left your opening, the next thing you want to do is take a pair of scissors and cut notches all the way around except the opening. Do not cut notches in the open section. Just cut it all the way around, just like this, on your lining fabric and your main fabric. Don't cut the stitches. Just cut close to the stitches as possible. And that way you can turn it inside out or right side round. What this does is help to ease the fabric when you are sewing in a circle or the half moon shape. So I'm going to flip this right side out, on both the lining and the main fabric. And then what you're going to do after I get it turned around, you're going to take the main fabric and the lining fabric and fold over those open parts. After you have like reach in and kind of get those corners to poke out, you may have to use a chopstick or something to get deep down in there, but just take your time and get all of your corners poked out, and I'll be back and show you what to do with the next step. And after you poke out these corners, you can fold this fabric onto itself, your opening, and then you're going to take it to the iron and iron the whole circle all the way around. Okay. All right. So I folded my closure onto itself and I ironed it down. So this is what you should have so far. It should be flat. And then the next step, what you want to do is fold your fabric onto itself so that you can find the center of your circle. You're going to find the center of your half circle on both pieces of fabric, the lining and the main fabric, okay? Once you open that up, you're going to, and this is just children's chalk, I'm just going to draw me a line straight down. Let me get my ruler. I'm just going to draw me a line straight down the center, just so you can see it, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape measure, and this is the bottom of the half circle. This is the bottom, this is the top. I am going to take my tape measure and go from the bottom up 2 inches. And I'm going to draw a mark. So you should have something that looks like this. Find the center, mark it or not. It just depends. It's up to you. I'm showing you to mark it so that you can see it from the bottom up 2 inches. Okay, this is what you're going to do. And then what you're going to do is take your lining fabric. You already have the center. I already have the center of my lining fabric marked. I am going to turn it. So now my bottom edge of my lining is here. The top portion of my half circle is here. This is still open. Okay. You're going to take this, line up this center with the center of the main fabric, and you're going to line it up and go to the 2-inch mark that you just made on your main fabric, 2 inches up from the bottom. So line that up and pin it. Okay. Pin it in a couple of places just so it can stay still. And you're going to be sewing on the edge of the lining fabric. Okay. Just give me a second and I'll show you what it should look like so far. All right. So this is what you should have. You marked 2 inches up from the bottom. You're going to take your lining fabric, center it with the center of your main fabric, and then you're going to stop right at the 2-inch mark. And now I am going to sew from this edge. You see how this is made into like a V? You start sewing from here all the way around till you get to this other V or half moon. Okay? Back stitch at the beginning and the end, and try your best to make sure that where your opening is on this half moon, that you're catching all the fabric so that you can close this up as you sew. And I'm just going to be sewing on the edge of the fabric all the way around. And while I'm sewing, you can fast forward this part if you okay with that. I'm really trying to give you the step-by-step tutorial and also in somewhat of a real time, okay? Now, you may not sew as fast as me, and that's okay. Just take your time. It's not a race. All right. So, I've sewn all the way around my half moon of my lining fabric onto the main fabric of my half moon, okay? So now I'm going to take these pins out and I'll bring this up to the camera just so you can see how it's stitched. Okay. So now what you're going to do is flip the whole thing. So just flip it upside down. All right. And so now I am on, you can see my main fabric and then my lining fabric. Okay. I am only sewing the opening close. You see where those two pins are? That's where my mark was when I first started and had this open. So I'm just going to show you that this is still open. I am about to just sew between the two marks. Not over here, not over there. Just this part is what I'm closing. So you just want to make sure that it's laying flat. And I'm going to start sewing about a half of an inch away from my closure so that I can make back stitches. And I'll bring it to the camera when I'm done. And you want to go about a half of an inch after your closure. And I'm just making sure that I closed all of mine. Okay. And it's kind of hard to see because I have blue thread, the top and the bottom. But let me bring it up. So you see, let me see, maybe on the back. See how I just closed? So it would be from the front. This is just where my opening was. Okay. Let me just make sure that all of this is closed. Yep, it's closed. So this is what you should have so far. You see how I can reach my hand in here? This is a pocket. This is another pocket. All right, so let's go to the next step. So now on the back, this is my lining fabric, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half. And so when you fold it, this is what you should have. This is the front or the back. It just doesn't matter. And this is the front or the back. So all I did, it was open. I'm using my center that I sewed, and I'm folding it in half. So right now I'm just looking to see if this is going to be even. And my circle is not as even. It's like short on one side, but it's okay. We're going to make it work. So now what you want to do is on the lining side facing up, you're just going to sew a straight line down the center up until you get to that 2-inch mark that you left right here. So do not go past the 2-inch mark. So you're going to sew with the lining side facing up. So from the top down to the 2-inch mark. Just sew a straight line. Back stitch when you come to the end, okay? And then we're going to take this off. Okay, so you should have sewn straight down. See, this is my 2 inches. I did not sew here. I just sewed from this all the way to the top. Okay. So, and I'm seeing now that why mine is not so even, because I did not bring this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these are centered even though my sides are not, okay? And this is my first time doing it, and we're going to learn this together. Okay? So far, I'm loving it. So far, I'm loving it. And being that my fabric is kind of busy, you can't even tell that mine is not lined up, but it's not. And y'all know, I'm going to always show you my mistakes because you may run into this same issue, okay? So now with this being folded onto itself, I just folded it up. You can go straight down, run a stitch straight down on both sides, okay? And that's what I'm going to do. Let me see, because when I flip this, I'm going to flip mine this way. So my main fabric is up, and my lining fabric, you can only see this portion of it. I'm going to flip mine this way and line it up because I want the majority of this pattern to be shown on the outside. So whatever your main fabric is, you want to fold that onto itself. And I'm going to clip it right here in the middle. Okay, so now I'm just going to sew straight down on both sides, closing in my bag. Hold on. Okay, I forgot something. Hold on. What we want to do next, and I apologize, you want to take the rounded edges and you're going to top stitch all the way around first. let's do that first. Hopefully you watch this before you start sewing it. And I'm going to change my stitch length to 3 millimeters. When you come to that center, you're just going to put your fabric down, pivot, and go back around. Okay, and then I'm just going to do the other side as well. And when I'm done, I'll show you what it looks like. And I'm dropping everything. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch this side. Okay, so I've top stitched both of my sides. Let me show you. So top stitch is probably hard to see, but top stitch. Okay, so now I'm going to fold my main fabric that I want to be seen on the outside. I'm going to fold it onto itself. And make sure that it's lined up as best as I can, because mine is not even, but it's okay. I want to make sure that my center is even. So I'm going to pin it, mark it. And we are almost done. So I would say almost an hour, you can get this bag done. So what you want to do is now take your handles. I'm sorry. Let's sew this bag down first on the sides. Sew both sides down. And I'm changing my stitch length back to a 2.5 millimeter stitch. Back stitch when you start. The seam allowance is 1/8 of an inch. And also back stitch when you end, and then go down the other side. So I'm just going to sew up on this side. I'm going to show you exactly what I did to try to line this bag up. This is just in case yours did not line up like mine did, okay? So this is what I did. I just sewed straight, even though this does not line up with that. I used the shortest point of my fabric to make sure that I had a straight line. And I'm not going to cut any of this off, because this is going to be on the inside of my bag, and I'm okay with that. Just make sure you get yours lined up. I'm really not sure why mine did not line up. Okay. So now I'm going to just flip my bag right side out. And it doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're about to do the handles. Okay, so this is what my bag is looking like so far. And y'all see the pocket. So you'll have a pocket there. You will have a pocket there. And you should have pockets on the inside, maybe. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so it's just pockets on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip mine in the middle because I want it to stay even. I want it to stay even. And then I'm going to take my handle, or one of my handles, and you want to either take your tape measure or your ruler, and you want to come in with your handles 2.5 inches from the edge, whatever your edge is. And I'm just going to mark it 2.5 inches. I'm going to go over here and go 2.5 inches from the edge. If you do it from the center, it will be 3.5 inches this way. So just depends on which way you do it, okay? So I'm going to mark, and I'm just going to bring my mark from the other side here. All right. And so you're going to take your handles, and you're going to put the lining side with the lining side and the main fabric side with the main fabric side. If you want to, you can switch them so you don't have to have them match. And I think I like mine like this. So I'm going to not match mine. I mean, I'm going to, do it like this. So what you're going to do is take the edge of your handle and place it on the line. So it should be inside. It should be inside the line. And let me cut this off, this edge off with my pinking shear, just so it doesn't fray and it looks good. All right. So you're going to line this up just like this. So I'm going to show you what this looks like so that you can get your handles right. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to show you. I went down eyeballing it. Let's see how far I went down so you'll know. Oh, I didn't go down far enough because I want to go down 2 inches. So let me readjust this. So let me measure 2 inches down and put a mark. Measure 2 inches down and put a mark. I almost got it on this side, y'all. See, I wasn't too far off, but my eyes deceived me over here. So I'm going to bring this down to the 2-inch mark. Somebody probably like, how far down? 2 inches. 2 inches. Okay. And then you're just going to turn your bag and do the same exact thing on the other side. Let me mark my 2 inches down. And we're almost done with this bag. Once we put the handles on, we will be done. Okay. So this bag roughly takes from start to finish after cutting your fabric, I would say roughly 1 hour, and it took me about 15 minutes to cut my fabric. So an hour and 15 minutes. Let's see if we can get that done. I want to show you these handles so that you don't mess it up or get confused. If you just give me 1 second. Don't forget, you can match your handles to the same side of your fabric. I'm choosing to do mine different, okay? So the way that you are going to put your handles is once you mark your 2 inches, let me do it from the blue side. Once you mark your 2 inches from the edge of the fabric in, your handle goes on the inside of the line, not on the outside of the line, okay? So your handle is not going to look like this when you're done. Do not put it on the outside. Bring it into closer to your center. That way your bag will flow and handle very well. So now what we're going to do is just take it to the sewing machine. Sew up, come down, sew around, do a square in the middle. I'm sorry, an X in the middle. And then we will be done. And I am going to also put my label on this bag. So I'm just going to use this pocket. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I'm going to use this pocket right here, this opening, and attach my label. If you can see it, I don't know. Anyway, I'm attach it to that. So let me sew down the handles. You're just going to sew around and do the X in the middle. I will show you one, and then I'll come back when I'm done. Let me take my extension table off to sew the handles. So I'll show you on the blue side because you should be able to see it better. And then you just pivot. Now I'm doing the X. Uh-oh. And what the X does is just secures your handles in place, and they will not come apart. If you just sew around it, 9 times out of 10, you could lose a handle. But let me show you what that looks like, and then we will be done. I will sew the rest of my handles. This is what you should have once you're done. Okay? If you want to, you can sew your handle inside of your bag where you don't see the X or you don't see this. You'll still see the X because of your bobbin, but you won't see the edge of this fabric. So it's totally up to you how you want to put your handles on. And I will be right back once I sew all of my handles down. Okay. Okay, so I put my handles on. This is what they look like. So first I want to say, if you have made it to this part of the video, thank you. If you continue to watch, then your bag will be just as cute as mine. But if you left before I finished, then shame on you. Okay. So what we're going to do next is you're going to turn your bag inside out. Turn it inside out. So now you should see more of your lining fabric on this side. Make sure that your points are out. And you're going to take this side or any side, and we're going to make our boxed corners. So I'm only going to measure, let's see, I'm going to measure 1 inch from the tip. So just measure 1 inch from the tip. And you're just going to sew straight across. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. And go straight across. So now we're just going to sew straight across. Okay, and then we're going to sew the other side. Okay. So we have both of those sewn straight across, right? So what I want to do is I want to take my bag and I want to take these dog ears, don't cut them off. Bring it up to the top. So the dog ear is like this. Fold it up just like this. And what you're going to do is try to get this underneath the sewing machine, or you can hand stitch it. I'm lazy, so I'm going to try to shimmy this underneath my sewing machine. All you want to do is tack this down, okay? If you can't get yours under the sewing machine, no worries. Just take a needle and thread and tack it down. So I'm just going to back stitch a couple of times. Just like that. Woo. Hold on. Here is my finished bag. So I went in and took that stitch out. So this is what your corner is supposed to look like now. And you have a pocket here. And then when you turn it this way, you will have a pocket here. And then I will just stand up and put it on so you can see about how far it's going to go down. So if you want it to be a little bit longer then make your handles a little bit longer, okay? If you okay with this size, because I think it's perfect. But yeah, super cute. And I would say about an hour and 15 minutes, and you will have you a bag just like this. So, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you're going to make this bag, leave it in the comments below. I appreciate you and have a blessed day. And we will see you on the next live video or whatever. Unbiased is signing out.